Welcome to the Eagle Valley Model Railroad. Today we're going to be talking about some engine maintenance. Even on basic engines as these are, we still need to do maintenance on them. There's still some things that need to be looked at and maintained to have good running sessions. Some of the things we're going to need a small flathead screwdriver, small Phillips head, some Q-tips, tweezers, X-Acto knife, and this is a sanding block. That's a fine grit sanding block, some paper towels, alcohol, and an alcohol water mix, and just a scrap or spare piece of flex track. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the body off of these engines, and we're going to look at them and do some maintenance on them. We're going to start off with this unit right here, and the body of this unit's held on with Phillips head screws. So we're going to remove those screws. And remember, you're dealing with plastic pieces and metal screws, so be careful on stripping things. And with these engines, the lights are mounted to the chassis and not the body, so there's no wires attached to the body, so there's no considerations needed there. You set the body to the side. The motor's held in with side clips, and you can gently push to one side and pull half of it out. Take your flathead and reach in there and gently spread that tab apart enough, and that motor will drop right out, just like that. Now right up here where your solder joints are, there's two small Phillips head screws. What you want to do at that point is get those screws out. Now put your finger over this rounded tab. There's a spring and a piece of copper stock, round stock, down in there that makes contact with the motor. It acts like the brushes of the motor. And sometimes these get stuck a little bit. And there's your spring. Take your tweezers out, take the spring out, and do the same for the other side. Be mindful of your solder joints and your wires. You don't want to mess any of those up. Be mindful of your spring. There's your other spring. And there's your motor. Now your copper stock is in these holes here. Now sometimes they're a little aggravating to come out. And that's what they look like. And it uses those flat surfaces. You can tell one side's a little bit shiny and the other side's real dark. You want to clean up both sides of those. And you also want to clean up where the contact's made on this tab. And again, we basically do that with straight alcohol, or this is actually 70%. You can get it in higher percentages. The higher the percentage, the faster it evaporates and the less water that's involved. And again, you just use a decent little bit of pressure and clean up those contact surfaces. What we're looking for is good continuity of these electrical components. Set it to the side. Grab one of your round stocks and do the same thing. Inside this truck is the drive system for this engine. And that's what it looks like. It's just, it's a whole bunch of gears, just it's pre-greased, there's grease on it. If it starts squealing and squeaking, I don't recommend just squirting any old lubricant in there, because if it's a liquid type lubricant, it's going to get on everything on your layout. There should be a gear grease. I don't even have any. I mean, I believe this is maybe the second time since I've had this set that I've opened up and looked into this gearbox. So I don't have any issues with them, so I don't mess with them. And then it just goes back on the same way it came off, of course. So we've cleaned these little pieces of copper or brass stock. We're going to put those back into place, or at least try to. And then the springs go back on top of those pieces of round stock, and that holds your tension down. And again, all these little parts and pieces are the path that's giving your motor power from the trucks in the rear. Alright, let's get this in the right position and it'll probably work a little better. It's probably going to be in y'all's way. But what I like to do, solder joint goes up. I like to go ahead and place my screw, the correct screw, place my screw into the tab, just like that. And then as soon as I get it over it, the spring, I put my finger on it and put pressure down, and that holds the spring in place. And then I can screw that tab back down. You want it snug, not overly tight. Again, you're dealing with metal screws and plastic threads. Alright, so we got both sets of screws back in, and they're snug. And we'll line everything up, listen for the click, make sure the truck's free, and move on to the rear set of wheels. There's some more considerations to take. The wheels are metal, of course, and there are these small metal tabs back here that are spring loaded just for the way the copper's bent. It's a friction that rubs on the back side of these wheels, and that's your electrical pickup from the track to get power to the motor. So we're going to get in there and look and see what those look like and clean those up. And basically all you want to do is you want to pull the back of the truck down, and if you can look in there, there's a slit, and I know you guys can't see that, but there's a slit in the plastic, and what that is a tab that's up into that round piece, and just push that tab in, and that releases that truck, and that truck drops down. From here, we've got tabs on either side, and you just loosen up those tabs. You can come up through the bottom here. On either side, and just get those loose. Now what's holding this mainly is these front clips and rear clips. They look the exact same. I don't know if you can see that. But you just pull those tabs forward just ever so slightly. Again, you're dealing with plastic pieces, so we don't want to break anything. And it can be a little finicky. Just take your time. Of course you're on video, so it's going to take a lot longer than it usually does. And those tabs are on the front and the back. And once they come loose, they pretty much just come loose. So there we go. So what you have here is your metal trucks, your metal wheels, not your trucks, excuse me, your metal wheels. And then this right here is your pickup. What we're going to look at here is this metal strip right here. It's got a wire soldered to it. This goes to one side of your motor, and the other side goes to the other side of the motor. It's a pretty simple setup. You're looking at the ends of these pieces because that's what friction and touches the inside of your wheel sets to pick up the electricity. So all we want to do is get us some alcohol. Just a cap full of alcohol. Get one of your cotton swabs. And it's usually easier to leave this slid into place once you've looked at the solder joint. And just clean that surface area right there. Rub it absolutely as good as you can rub it. And they're not terribly dirty. That one was a little bit more dirty, if that's a word, more dirty. How about dirtier? So clean that side and do the reverse. And just make sure you get that surface right there real good. Alright. Set this to the side to dry. Get out one of your wheel sets. And look at it, inspect it. And basically we're doing the same thing with it. We're going to clean this thing up. And those are pretty dirty. Probably shaking the camera. I ain't even thought about that. Get one wheel set done and then move on to your next one. And again, you're just that inside area right there is where you're going to make your electrical contact and where you're transferring power from the track to the motor of your engine. So you need good continuity through all these parts and pieces. Alright. With these back clean, make sure when you put this back together that your metal tabs go inside your wheel sets. If they don't, then you're not doing any good to yourself. Because that's where they have to be to work properly. And it just takes a little bit of patience. Alright guys, now we've got this truck back together, you just want to double check and make sure that your metal tabs are behind your wheel sets. Again, this is the pickup. from track power to get to your motor. And the more surface area you have touching here, the better it's going to be. Alright, so with that done, we can put this truck back onto its chassis, and you just basically line up the hole, give it a little wiggle, and listen to it click. As long as that wheel is in there good, we're good to go. The process is cleaning the wheels. What I like to do is I'll take two paper towels, and I like to leave them together, and I lay them over my track, and I fold it over twice, just like that. That way across the top of the track there's only a single layer of paper towel. What I like to do then is just on one side, one complete paper towel here, I'll wet it with the water and alcohol mix. And as that's soaking, what I also like to do is take straight alcohol and do like a pre-soak on my wheel sets. So just get a little bit of alcohol on the wheels, and it starts breaking down some of that dirt and that grime that gets picked up as it runs. And I've heard model railroaders say it, and it's the truth. It doesn't matter how clean your track looks, it's still dirty. It's just the nature of what we deal with, guys. So set it down on the wet portion of the paper towels, and just start running it back and forth from wet to dry. And just about immediately you can start seeing some of that dirt being taken off and transferred over to the dry paper towel. I'm applying just a little bit of pressure, not a whole lot, but this pressure ensures that the engine stays on track, and we're really trying to break up that dirt on these wheel sets. So after I do it that direction, I actually turn mine around. I don't know if this does any good or not, but we're at this step, at this process. Why not? Everything's set up to go, so every bit. Get it back online and just work the engine back and forth again. One of the key parts of this type of engine and the way it goes back together is just make sure your wires aren't caught on anything and they're up in the middle of the chassis. That way when you put your body on, you're not pinching any wires. And then just double check your truck to make sure your trucks have full range of motion. I run into an issue one time. I put it back together and wasn't paying attention to it, and I had pinched a wire, and it was actually pulling my truck one direction, and when I got it on the layout, it kept derailing, and I've never had any issues with these derailing like that. And after investigating, that's what I found out it was. So make sure you're not pinching your wires when you put these bodies back on. So screw this body back on, and it's ready to start running. We're going to clean this next engine. And with these types of engines, again, it's the same process, but this body's a little bit different. There's tabs on the sides of this body. And I just run my flathead screwdriver up the side of the body and lift just ever so slightly. Again, these are plastic parts and you don't want to break these things. So get one side, turn it over, split the body in the chassis again. Make sure you get both tabs and it pops right off. And again, we're dealing with a body set that the light and the wiring is not attached to the body, so it comes right off. And again, we're dealing with the same type enclosed motor, the same type wheel sets. So we're not going to go through this process with this engine. I want to show you that that engine comes off different than the other. So I'll get this one done. We'll hook up some cars and we'll run some trains here. Thanks for watching. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and until next time, happy modeling.